This is Carlos Gonzalez, staff photographer at the San Francisco Chronicle, and I'm making this video because somebody in one of my Twitter comments was asking me to settle an argument between themselves and their sibling, who kept saying that the pictures of the Sturgeon Supermoon last night were composites and done in Photoshop. And the commenter, the person who reached out, was defending me and wanted to have see if I could help settle the argument. I guess a lot of those remarks about whether a photo is real or not come from people not really knowing the process to create photos like this, the kinds of lenses we use, and also the process we go by to get the proper exposure and such. And so I wanted to just illuminate, pardon the pun, how I go about doing this. And a lot of it is just preparation and looking for a good location. And there are apps out on the market that help you locate where a celestial object is going to rise and how to place a landmark in front of it. And I use one of those to kind of coordinate where I want to be, where I want to look for the moon, or even the sun, or the Milky Way, where I want it to rise in my photo frame. And so we picked a spot over in Cavallo Point near Sausalito, at the base of the Golden Gate, and set up over there and just started doing some exposure tests, waiting to see what kind of composition we wanted. Did we want people in the foreground? Did we want just straight, buildings and cityscape and all? And so we were just testing the light and doing exposure tests, and spent about an hour just deciding how we wanted to see where we wanted to place the moon. And that meant, honestly, just moving left to right, east to west on that stretch of road there. But yeah, we just kind of waited and saw how the light was changing, and waited for different kinds of pictures and such. And at one point you can see that the sunlight is diminishing so much because sunset is almost over at about 8:10, and then all of a sudden it was gone. It was within a matter of minutes it just became this soft pastel color, which is actually one of my favorite times to photograph, because you get the silver twilight and this really soft blue, pink, striations in the sky. And it was just at that point it was just a waiting game, waiting for the light to change a little bit more, checking different exposures and seeing how the light was reflecting off of different surfaces. We chose Coit Tower because it had this really great location, but also it's iconic, and it's illuminated. So we figured if we got a little bit of the moon and then the illumination on Coit Tower, they would balance out together. Otherwise, you're going to see a silhouette of Coit Tower, and we didn't want to do that. So we decided against the main cityscape of the Transamerican Pyramid and Salesforce, and basically just set up waiting for the moon to rise behind Coit Tower. And at one point we started seeing a little bit of glow behind the bridge. I don't know if you can see where my pointer's going at, but there's this orangey glow, and you don't see it over here. You don't see it in other parts of the frame. So we kind of felt we were getting close. And at that point we changed our exposure a little bit to get a little bit more of the color of the sky and the cityscape there, and just waited. And eventually the glow paid off, because that's where the moon was coming up, and we figured that was going to be our spot. And just waited for the moon to rise, and I'm just kind of going through a bunch of frames, and as you can see, it's rising. And I'll show you my whole context sheet, because you can see how many frames I took and how much I waited to get these pictures. And as you can see, I'm kind of changing exposure a little bit once I'm noticing that the moon is being filtered by the by the atmosphere, or the clouds and the marine layer, and maybe pollution, some haze. It's actually helping us out, because the moon now matches the ambient light, the sky around it, plus Coit Tower and the Bay Bridge. So we got this really great combination of things. And I decided to open it up a little bit, brighten it up, so I can get a little bit more of the cityscape, and that really helped it out. And as you can see, it's just I'm taking one frame after another. You can see the lights on the bridge flicker from one frame to the next, but I'm also kind of like gauging the exposure, and I'm really liking what I'm seeing. And then eventually the moon pops up above the cloud cover, and you can see how much brighter it is. It's actually really, really overexposed up there, because it's so much of a brighter element. And then I just kind of shifted the exposure down a little bit to try to keep a little bit more of that. So it's just a matter of like making changes and doing different compositions, rotating the camera to a vertical, doing what I can to get a frame. And eventually, it got too dark in the foreground and too bright on the moon. So it was time to kind of, start to move on a little bit. And, did a few frames with, a vertical composition, which was kind of cool. Because the tower was still kind of bright, which was kind of nice. But we did darken it up a little so that we could get more of the detail in the moon. Anyway, so as you can see, there's hundreds of pictures here of the moon, and if I was to composite these, well, I would have been here through next Friday, trying to make this many photos, of the moon rising, to back up the 2 or 3 pictures that I posted on Twitter. So that really isn't a good use of time, and my boss wouldn't pay that overtime anyway. So here's the full set of my contact sheets for anybody who's thinking that I composited it. And, at some point, it's just, a matter of having faith that somebody who's, a photojournalist is giving you what they got, because we go out there and we make these pictures. And in fact, in our industry, you're not supposed to alter or change anything, or, structurally reshape a photo, composite anything. That's actually completely against our code of ethics. The only thing you can do, and I'll open this up in Lightroom so you can see how much we actually adjust, is just, kind of brighten a little bit or darken a little bit or add a little bit of contrast to kind of, make it look a little bit clearer. But honestly, photo work, and I really only had a matter of minutes to take the picture and then send it to my editor, because I had to get it in within 20-25 minutes of having photographed it. So I didn't have much time. That's not enough time to composite a photo. And as you can see, the image comes up, and it's just, a nice image. I lightened it a little bit originally because I have a filter set to lighten some of my raw files, and I can increase contrast or reduce contrast or make things a little bit more, appealing to the eye. But that's it. I mean, there's no movement. I'm not changing anything. I can maybe crop if I needed to, like, really make that a longer horizontal if I wanted to. But I wanted to keep the water in there, and that was the important part. Anyway, I hope that clears up what we do as photojournalists and the work that goes into making an image like that, rather than sitting in my art studio and compositing stuff, because I could not make this many composites in the time to get in the time I had to send in by deadline. So I hope that clears it up. Thank you very much.